of the sexual health education. My name is Meka Padhi. I am your host in the channel called Kapadi the Life Coach, a channel that deals with relationship coaching and sexual health education. This channel is for both men and women, whether married or not married. So, in today's episode, I am going to share actually my sexual health education journey. When I really first heard about sex, what was sex meant for me that time, and the misconception that I had. And I also share my first boyfriend, what happened. So stay tuned. Now, sexual health education is actually really a tricky concept or a tricky subject because there are a lot of misconception. Now, especially during my time. By the way, I'm 63 years old. Now, in my 63 years old, when you grow up, I have never heard my mom or my father talks about the word sex or sexuality. It was also never mentioned, even at school. We never heard about it. So it's something that we never had. No parents were allowed even to talk about it, not at all, because maybe it was a taboo. As I said, I have never heard about it. So the very first time I heard about sex is when I was already around 16. I was already at secondary school. So I only heard about the word, and older girls were talking about something, but even the way they were talking, they were hiding from us who were young. So they would go talk far, and one of my friends said, no, they talk about sex. So we didn't really know. I didn't even know what is it all about. And I remember my mom talk, she just told us scary stories around sex. And she wasn't really open, but she was mentioned to say, yes, it was like a kind of a warning, but in a very scary way. And then she told us a story that apparently during their time, if you are a girl and you happen to get pregnant, so she mentioned the word pregnant, but I didn't know how pregnancy happened. I didn't know it happened during sex. And because I didn't understand what is sex. What is sex? So, but because I never even saw my mom and my father were not sleeping in one bedroom. So it's something that I could not really grasp. And many times I'm thinking, how do children formed? And I heard some vague stories just around that. Okay, coming back, my mom used to tell me the story about apparently if you happen to get pregnant, I don't know how you get pregnant, you will be burned alive. Apparently, during that time, the moment you get pregnant, you will be burned alive. So that thing of being burned alive, it was stick in my mind. So, and whenever I am thinking of maybe having a boyfriend, because that time, there were also boyfriends who wrote us letters. No, I want you to be my girlfriend. So I was scared. I thought even when you are written a letter, you will get pregnant and you'll be bent. So that belief, that misconception got stuck in my mind because I was really afraid. Oh my goodness, I will be burned alive. So then I happened to go to secondary school. Then I heard about the word sex. Then my friend and I, we decided, okay, we are going to have boyfriends, because they wrote us letter and we wrote back to say, yes, I am your girlfriend. Now, like maybe, because we were at the boarding school. So now after dinner, we were allowed some maybe 15 minutes to hang around and so on. Now, this boyfriend of mine will come and call me. So I stand a meter far from him because of the fear of getting pregnant and maybe I'll be burned alive. So that is the belief. That is the misconception that I used to have. Now, if he wants to grab me or he wants just maybe to, to hold hands. Ooh, that night, I remember when he held hands with me, I remember I could not sleep for a whole week because I thought I was going to get pregnant. So then I went home. After maybe 2 weeks, I went home and my mom asked me what happened, because my mom could see, could feel, could see that I was stressed and I was actually depressed. So she could see that I was depressed. Then she was asking me what happened. So, and I started crying. And my mom told me. Then I told my mom, I'm afraid I'll be burnt alive. And then my mom asked, why? No, then I told me, there is this boy, and this boy hold my hands because I thought I was having sex. Can you believe how in the age of 16 and 17 there, I still don't understand the word sex, the meaning of it. So the meaning of sex for me that time, it was whenever a boy touches you, hold hands, you will get pregnant. So now as the time goes, like when we were now in the last grade, then we start now really hearing the word about sex, that no, you cannot get pregnant when someone can hold. But what happened is, when, for instance, we are going to meet with our boyfriends, we all make sure that you put on a very tight jean. And there was an underwear called stepping. You put that stepping because you are so afraid. When you're a child, and then your mother scared you about that, you will be burned alive. And she also told us a story that some of the mothers, like some mother during their time, when they pick up that their daughters are pregnant, they have to fled to the neighboring country because they are afraid to be burned. Because sometimes they burn the mother also because they feel that the mother has not educated daughter, or the mother is the one who, didn't groom her daughter. So they have to fled. So those stories really scared me. Those are the misconception which has been exist during my time. So fortunately, I happened to enter into nursing. So I became a nurse, and we start now learning more about sex and sexuality. We learn about pregnancy. I learned also that now sex is you cannot get pregnant when someone does just touches you. You cannot get pregnant when you also just hang around with men, because that was the misconception then. That was the belief then. So, and then I was really interested in the subject because I wanted to free the fear, to get out of that fear that my mother has installed in me, that you'll be burned if you get pregnant. Even though that I was a nurse, that fear still existed. And now I used to have a boyfriend, and now we need to also have to engage in sexual activity. But still, I was I was still carrying that fear. But fortunately, we we learn about contraceptive. So even with the contraceptive, on top of the contraceptive, the fear was still there. So you could see that, the issue of sex education, it was never discussed in our house because we grow up in a Christian house. And there was even a story I had when we were now at secondary school. I had also a story around that to say, some married couple, they when they got married, they also didn't know. Because if I didn't know, so other many other girls, many other women, even those in the age of being married, they also didn't know about the issue of sex. So they got married, and now they were expected to have sex with their husband. So they didn't know how to. And I had a story, I don't know whether it is a true story. I had a story that the the husband has to go to the pastor, and then the pastor called both of them, and they were taught at the church how to engage in sexual activity. So, can you see how many of us, where do we come from when it comes to sex and sex education? That is exactly the reason why I started this channel called Kapadi the Life Coach, which is really dealing with relationship issue and especially the sex education, because my goal was really to educate men and women when it comes to sex education and to clear the myth, the misconception, the negative beliefs that has been attached to sex and sexuality. And that's why until now it is a taboo. Until now we cannot discuss it, you know, openly and freely. And we as especially as mothers, we also fail to groom our daughters because we also lack education. We lack sex education. And when I got married, I was also zero. I didn't also understand because when I got married, I still carry the fear. If you get pregnant, you will be bent. It was still in my subconscious mind. So that was also one of the reasons I have to free myself from that fear. I have to go for therapy to remove that fear in me that, yes, sex is a normal thing. Sex is not a taboo. Sex is practiced, especially by married couple. You are allowed to practice it. And yet, you cannot practice it if you don't have enough knowledge, if you don't have enough education, if you don't have how to do it. And you free yourself from it is not a taboo. It is a topic like any other topic. It needs still to be discussed. It needs skills and knowledge. And who has to install the knowledge and skill into our young people, into our men and women married couple who end up in being married but still lack sex education. So therefore, it is my pleasure. I really taken upon myself. I feel if I cannot stand up for my people, if I cannot stand up and teach my people that how to engage in sexual education, and especially men, you will find men who also have sexual problems, where you find a man has either early ejaculation. Many of men in our society, they really suffer from early ejaculation, sexual disorder. They have a lot of the sexual disorder, men and women. But if we still feel that it is a taboo, that's why we have a lot of divorce. We have a lot of suicide in our society because men will commit suicide. I have a case where 2 or 3 men commit suicide because they feel that they have these sexual problems, but they don't have a platform where to discuss it. They have the fear even to approach the doctor so that they can be helped because it's a taboo and there were fear around it. They will end up really commit suicide. So therefore, my friends, I would love us to form a community. This channel is your community so that we discuss it freely. But what you need to do, you have to train your tongue. You have to free yourself from the misconception, from the false beliefs that sex is a taboo, sex is a satanic thing, sex is a non-religious thing. Sex is practiced by men and women, especially men and women in marriage. And if we are not able to discuss it, we'll have an increased divorce because our children, like me, we get into marriage, but we have zero knowledge and skill around the issue of sex and sexuality. So I want to challenge you, especially people in my culture, that yes, let us hold hands, let us discuss, let us form platforms where we are discussing it so that our children can gain knowledge and skill so that we are able to groom our children. Yes, the fear that has been installed in me by my mom, I have to free it. And I want you also, you free the knowledge or the fear that has been installed in you, the taboo. Because early then, people used to be mocked, humiliated, especially whenever you engage in sexual activity. So this is our platform. So in summary is to say, let us clear the myth around sexual education, around sex as a taboo. So through my journey, I was trying to explain to you how my journey was regard to sex and sexuality. What beliefs I had from my mom, what fear my mother had installed in me around the issue of sex and sexuality. But it is just a myth. Sex is a natural thing. Sex can be discussed openly. Sex is a normal thing. Sex can be discussed freely without fear of humiliation, without fear of being mocked, without fear of being called names. Therefore, let's educate our children. So if you like this type of video, thank you for prescribe to my channel, Kapadi the Life Coach. Thank you for liking this kind of video. And thank you for sharing. I love you all. And I want you, in the next episode, we are really going to dig into the detail of the sex education, and especially sex education around men and women in the relationship. Thank you very much. I love you all. God bless you and good night.